one of the most asked questions by nervous Bama fans is, are we going to have 1,000-yard wide receiver? Are we going to have 1,000-yard running back this year? That's a very good question.
Justin, something that's wild when we look at this, answering your question holistically, will there be 1,000-yard receiver and 1,000-yard rusher? Did y'all know that last year was the first time since 2002 that Alabama had neither a 1,000-yard rusher nor a 1,000-yard wide receiver? Look, I'm not a betting man, but if I was putting money on it, I would expect that they will have a 1,000-yard wide receiver or a 1,000-yard running back. History dictates a lot of the times they have both. If we look at the running back room, I think there are so many different ways we could go. Jase McClellan, injuries have kind of gotten in the way, but I think this is going to be a big year for him. And at the wide receiver room, there's a guy I'm highlighting tomorrow, Malik Benson. All right, look, we can talk about Jermaine Burton, and I think Jermaine Burton will have a bigger year this year. We can talk about Ja'Cory Brooks, and I think he's really going to have a bigger year this year. We can talk about Prentice. We can talk about Law, and I think Law is probably a name we don't talk enough about, as well as Isaiah Bond. But I don't think there's any denying the ability of Malik Benson here. We know how excited the coaching staff was. Smook, you talked about it right when I first got on here. Whenever Bryce was doing his pro day, they had Malik Benson out there catching. They had no chemistry, and that's the guy they choose. There's a reason for that. This guy has got unreal ability. Alabama is very lucky they get him in this class. His experience, his ability, I think he's going to be the catalyst for a 1,000-yard wide receiver. And look, I think you could almost expect a 1,000-yard rusher as well with Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator. But it's just wild that it was a 20-year gap between the last time Alabama had neither a 1,000-yard running back and a 1,000-yard wide receiver. So, yeah, I think they'll definitely be there.
I think we're going to see so much deep rotation because of the talent that we have that we want Malik Benson to have 800, 900 yards. Isaiah Bonds is going to have 600 yards. Ja'Cory Brooks going to have 700, 800 yards. I believe Jermaine Burton might break 500 this year. I think because of the rotation and the way that the play calling is going to fall, Malik Benson is going to have plenty of highlight plays. He's going to have JMO type plays, but he won't be the only one getting those plays or getting put in position to make those plays because of the way it's going to be schemed. So to me, honestly, looking at it from a different standpoint, because I was the first one to say that we got our 1K wide receiver when we got Malik Benson. I said that first. I'm going to tell y'all that. I said that. But to look at it from a different standpoint and to really go in depth and really think realistically what we're dealing with, one, being Jalen Milroe possibly being the starting quarterback. Two, Tommy Rees' first year as an offensive coordinator. Three, the amount of talent Tommy Rees has, the offensive coordinator at Alabama. And then three, the amount of talent he has to work with, the depth in the running back room, and the growth and development of the offensive line is my last point. So it's one of those things where ideally, on paper, easily Malik Benson hit 1K. Easily Ja'Cory Brooks could hit 1K. With the Tua, with the Bryce, with the AJ, with the Mac, you know. But we've yet to see Jalen Milroe's growth, and that's my point.
I think we'll definitely have a 1,000-yard back, and it's going to come from these two, either Jase McClellan or Justice Haynes. They're going to get the bulk of the carries, I believe. So if we are to have a 1,000-yard running back, it's definitely gonna come from one of those two. Like Coach Spook said, you know, if Milroe wins the starting quarterback job, the only possibility we have of having a 1,000-yard receiver, he just keying on one guy like we did Blake Sims with the Amari Cooper, Jalen Hurts with Darius Stewart that year. I think he's a more of a 1 or 2 read quarterback. So the ball's not going to get spread out as much if we have Milroe as the quarterback. If he's the quarterback, I'm going with Ja'Cory Brooks or Malik Benson as our 1,000-yard receiver.
I do think we're going to get back to having a 1,000-yard receiver. You know, I do think it's either going to be – I think it's probably going to be Malik Benson. I think, you know, the rapport he's already showed with Milroe and Simpson, I think it's going to be – I'll have to look at it holistically. We'll probably have a 1,000-yard receiver where we might have to call on Malik Benson to go for, have that Devontae Smith versus Ole Miss game where he scores, you know, 4 or 5 touchdowns, possibly, and have 200 yards receiving. But I think the way Tommy Rees schemes is going to be multiple variations. But I think it's important. Not only do we just have a 1,000-yard receiver, I think Bond needs to be pushing like 800. Brooks needs to be pushing like 800, 700. Anything over 450 yards, I think, for each receiver. Touches, make sure Law's getting touches. I think that's how the offense is kind of going to look with having that one leading receiver. And I think from the running back perspective, I think we do have potential to get 2 running backs over 1K, whether that's a Milroe at a quarterback with the running back, a McClellan, Roydell could have like 600, 700. But I think if he's going to have 2 1,000-yard rushers, I think it's going to be McClellan, Justice Haynes.
Without a doubt, I believe in Jase McClellan. Been a big fan of his since day one. He stays healthy. He gets 1,300. As far as having a second running back eclipse the 1,000-yard mark, I think we'll have some guys come close, but the carries are going to be shared around. I do think Jam Miller is going to be all-purpose guy, all-purpose yards leader without question. Roydell Williams will lead us in rushing touchdowns. As far as the wide receiver room, Malik Benson will be that dude. I think coming in close to 1,000, Kobe Prentice.